Hi, I'm Whack.
Hey, and I'm Pat. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit. This week ending Friday, September 20th. It's been an exciting week. We've got a lot of news to go through this episode, Whack. Jam-packed. We've got market news. We've got interest rate cuts. We've got some NodeSet stuff. We've got RPIP 62. We're jam-packed. But the big news, or the big question is, are you going to go see Vitalik's movie?
No, I was supposed to go see it last night at the premiere in Chicago, and there's a group of us. We have a little Chicago group chat, and what ended up happening was there weren't enough people who were interested in getting enough tickets to confirm it was happening. So we had
Hmm.
assumed that it wasn't going to happen. And then on Tuesday, I saw a tweet saying, hey, the Chicago viewing is going to happen. But then it was too late for me to go to Chicago, and other people had already made other plans. So the group of us who were like so excited about doing this thought it wasn't going to work out, and then we couldn't go do it. So I'm just going to watch it on stream like the rest of you all.
Yeah,
So it's a bit of a shame.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, otherwise I would have watched it last night and I could have been talking to you about it now. So yeah.
Hmm. I know, I know. Here, I got a post. It says, well, this was yesterday. So tomorrow is the worldwide theater premiere of the Ethereum film documentary Vitalik, an Ethereum story, screening in 23 countries. Thanks for all your support. What streaming services is going to be on if you're not able to view it in person?
They have their own streaming service. So it's ethereumfilm.xyz, and you'll be
Oh,
able
okay.
to stream it through there. Yeah. So I don't think
So,
it'll be on like Netflix or anything like that. I think it's going to cost
mhm,
you like $10 or $15 or something to stream it. There might be a
mhm.
way to like get it on your TV. I don't know how it'll work, but it's pretty cool. I'm
That's
excited to
cool.
watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, so check it out. Let's look at markets. Well, first, let's look at the Ethereum ETF flows. We've been bleeding out again this week, whack. We had one positive day, that was on September 13th, with a 1.5 million positive inflows. But otherwise, you've got Grayscale still kind of bleeding out a little bit. And most of the ETFs have had like barely any, if any, inflows. BlackRock a little bit here, every other day, 4 or 5 million bucks.
Yeah.
Yesterday, which is Wednesday, September 18th, because we're recording this on Thursday, the
Hmm.
19th, about 10 million in net outflows. Let's see what that's done for price. Right now, Ethereum is trading at 2,427. Looks like we're up for the week, 3.8% in US dollar terms. Of course, I think we got a bump overnight because of the Federal Open Market Committee met yesterday, and
Yep.
it was kind of people were debating, was it going to be a 1/4% rate cut or a 0.5%? Just a couple of weeks ago, whack, the consensus was it was going to be a 1/4%, but over the
Hmm.
last couple of weeks, it's been building to, maybe it was going to be a half a percent, and indeed,
Yep.
they did cut it a 0.5%. So markets have kind of rallied a little bit, at least Ethereum has. Let's take a look at Rocket Pool. RPL had a good overnight as well, up 7% overnight. Pretty flat on the week 7 day though. So, any comments about markets this week?
Yeah. So first of all, the ETF stuff, I've stopped looking at that.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
like, I'm not looking at that anymore. Like, I'll wait for crypto Twitter to start telling me that there's
To tell
significant
you.
inflows. Yeah. And then I'll go have a look. But otherwise, I'm not looking. The ETH price has been like flat, like it was kind of trending downwards a little bit with crypto market. And then it got a bit of a pump yesterday because of the interest rate cut. And then RPL, we had that little bit of a pump last week. During last week's episode, we talked about it, right? And I think it's just kind of bleeding out from that, down flat in the week, but down on the ratio a little bit. But we're still not hitting new ratio lows yet. So that, is saving grace. However, I've actually, like, even with this interest rate cut, like, I've actually turned a little bit bearish, which people might think is really surprising coming from me. And I've already been like kind of called out for a few times in like little private group chats that I have. But I think that we're likely to head into a recession soon. And like historically speaking, with the yield rate, once it inverts, and then when you get the uninversion, which we got like very recently, I think a couple of weeks ago, it uninverted. Not long after that, you get a recession historically.
Mhm.
Also with interest rate cuts, after the interest rates stabilize and then the Fed starts cutting interest rates, that tends to lead to recession as well. And the idea, of course, is that, interest rates start going up depending on market sentiments, and then the Fed goes either too far for too long or doesn't manage it properly, and then by the time they start cutting, the economy's already kind of shifted into a recessionary period, and it looks like that's what might have happened. And the main evidence for that is the jobs data looks like it's starting to get higher, and once it starts to get higher, it gets higher really fast. So I'm actually short-term bearish, which might be surprising to a lot of people who are listening because they think of me as a perma bull. I'm not selling any of my crypto. I'm not trying to trade it, anything like that. But I'm also not buying anything at this point, and I'm just seeing what the market does, and that's what I'm just watching now. But I think that the next few weeks, the next few months, maybe will be telling. I think 2025 is going to be extremely bullish for crypto, the markets overall. But I'm not sure what's going to happen in the next few weeks or months. So,
did you catch the Bankless episode with Ben Cowan?
Yeah, I listened to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a TA guy, and sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong. But I thought it was interesting. He was saying, if you look historically with the interest rate cuts, he actually expects Ethereum to bottom out in the next, next few months.
In this period, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Against BTC. And there's kind of a lag period because everyone assumes, money printer on, here comes the interest rate cuts, but it actually takes some time before that turns the other way, right? So he's like, we may actually get some lows coming in until it pivots and turns. So,
yeah. And
I guess the way I looked at it was like, well, if that's true, then this is the last buying period before we take off in 25, perhaps, or perhaps not. We'll see.
So that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for a capitulation wick. This is a pattern that we've seen play out. I've seen happen a bunch of times where the market's just kind of, pardon my phrase, but shit the bed and make a huge mess, and the markets crash, but then they bounce back really quickly. But I'm looking for that 10-20% daily candle down, and that's what I'm really keeping my eyes on. And once I see that, then I think that'll be the bottom. The last bits of leverage will get wiped out. The market will then hopefully adjust to a new period. One of the things about the interest rate cut is there's a couple of different tools that the Fed has, and one of them is the Fed balance sheet, and whether they are adding to the balance sheet or reducing things from the balance sheet, and that is periods of quantitative tightening or easing. And according to the announcement from the Fed yesterday, we're still in a period of quantitative tightening. So even though the interest rates are going down, the Fed is still removing things from their balance sheets. And that means that, there's still added pressure on the market to absorb that selling from the Fed. And it's only when, the Fed goes back into a period of quantitative easing, when they're adding things to their balance sheet, to put money out on the market, then I think I find that kind of convincing that is the period where the markets will turn around properly. There's a little bit of a pump into the news from yesterday, but I think what I'm going to really be watching is to see how that sustains over the next 2 weeks, month, 6 weeks, right, before knowing what happens. Of course, I'm not a financial expert. Yeah. No one knows the future, right? But that's just my personal perspective. I'm just sitting and watching. I'm not trading anything, but I'm also not buying anything right now. And hey, if the market pumps from here for the next year, I'm not going to be sad about that at all. I'll be super happy about it. But yeah, that's just what I'm seeing.
Of course, no, this is financial advice, just
Never.
Opinion and entertainment.
Yes, exactly.
One thing I understand from traditional stock markets is that out of a year, 11 days out of the year determine the majority of, if it's, what's it, 11 days, you got to be there's 11 days of a whole year that you'll see prices, when you get the majority of the price appreciation are just consolidated in 11 days. So the point is that trying to market time is super hard, because if you're not in the market, if you're not in the money on those 11 days, you missed out, right, for the majority of the gains.
That's right.
Guy like myself, I just DCA regularly. I keep it simple. In this case, what I do is I DCA on like an L2 that people are expecting. There's going to be a token for like Scroll or Linea or Tycho. So I do my buying on those platforms just to, and then over time you get maybe an airdrop or two in addition to just my regular DCA. So I kind of
That's
keep it
pretty smart.
simple, right? I don't try to time it because I think I would be terrible at it if I did. Most people, I think, they fail at it as well because you just got to be kind of lucky, right?
Yeah, so that shouldn't go without saying that like my bags are full. Like I've been buying nonstop for years, so there's no like that I don't think that needs to be said, right? Like that's just matter of statement. It's just like right now I'm just chilling, so that's what it
Sure,
is.
that's cool.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Let's move on to some rocket pool news. So Samus did some he did some number crunching, created a spreadsheet here that I'll pull up, comparing the Lido CSM expected returns versus Saturn expected returns. And can you let's hopefully viewers can see this, but can you break this down? What's the TLDR on this spreadsheet that Sam has put together?
Yeah, so Lido, a couple of weeks ago put out their assessment of last week put out their assessment of what their bond curve is going to look like, and then people could kind of extrapolate from that. And Lido were, very clear that hey, this will be 2.4 times solo staking rewards. So if solo staking rewards is 3%, then you'll be getting close to 7% with Lido CSM. So the rewards are way better. Now that kind of made the Rocket Pool community think, hey, are we competing with this? Like, how do we fare against this? And the initial judgment was we don't fare very well. We actually it's quite bad in terms of how the Rocket Pool community kind of sets up with this. However, what Samus did here was kind of showed that there's ways that Rocket Pool can still be competitive with Lido. Now, first things first, like I don't think we have to match Lido at their rewards, right? Like that's my stance. Like we don't have to have the exact same amount or like even more than Lido to be competitive, because we have other things, like Rocket Pool has other things that can charge a premium for, like the decentralization and like the wide validator set and all that great stuff that Rocket Pool has.
The vibes,
Sure,
man.
the vibes
That's
community, like all of that worth something. But like when it comes to cold hard numbers, people do prefer the bigger number compared to the smaller
Sure.
number. However, the bigger number to be meaningful doesn't have to be that much bigger. Like the smaller number can be a bit smaller but have all these other attributes and it can still be favorable. However, what Samus did here was kind of showed that with Saturn the way it stands at the moment, like if we change the node operator rewards to 6.5%, then what we would have is in Saturn 2 we would be competitive with Lido. Sadly, there's no real way for us to be competitive with Lido before Saturn 2, because Lido are going live with sublinear bonds now, and we are not going to get sublinear bonds until Saturn 2, which might be 12 to 18 months away potentially. Yeah, that's not good, but eventually, hopefully, we'll be in a position where we can be competitive with Lido. Now, that, of course, means that rewards in the Saturn are going to be in two buckets. There's going to be the node operator rewards, which is for people who get ETH only, and then there'll be the RPL rewards, who will still get ETH rewards, but it'll be compared to like how much RPL they're staking. And if you make the ETH only rewards bigger, then the RPL rewards go down a little bit. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on and like keep in mind. But there's really cool stuff here that Samus is just showing that hey, Rocket Pool can still be competitive, and this is with a 1.5 ETH bond, right? Like the 4 plus 1.5. In the other tab, he crunched the numbers to show if we go down to a smaller bond as well, like so 1.3 kind of matching Lido. He thinks that we can actually outperform Lido then, based on how we give rewards to our node operators, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it shows actually we would be more competitive or
At
we'd have a
6%,
higher
yeah.
return. Yeah, it's
That's
6%
right, yeah.
using the alternative
Yeah.
bond. 1.3 instead of 1.5, right?
Yeah, so it's no right. The 5 now is kind of the idea of what we're standing at, but then going up to 6, we'd actually beat Lido.
I meant the bond,
Yeah,
yeah, the
sorry,
commission.
yeah,
The bond
that's right. So
1.3.
I'm sorry, yeah,
Because
yeah. So down from 1.5,
the
yeah,
expected
exactly.
was 1.5 ETH bond,
Yeah.
but if we just chiseled away a little bit down to 1.3,
Yeah,
and we had 6% commission instead of 5, because I think the expected was, okay, let's do 5% commission. If we bump it up to 6 and we reduce it down to 1.3, so basically twiddling the margins a little bit, we
the
could
thing,
be after Saturn 2 be as competitive or better.
it's not quite the same because your first 2 validators will still be for ETH,
Correct. Yeah.
so those will have the lower APY. And it's only the ones after that that will have the high APY. So it's
Got
still
it.
not as competitive as Lido, but it becomes it becomes competitive, once you have 20, 40, 50, 100 validators. At that point, those first 2 kind of get made negligible, and the rest are good.
Sure.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah. So the idea is, can we just? At first, it looked bad. I was like, "Holy cow! They can blow us out of the water with this." And initially, it will, because we're not going to have Saturn 1 for 6 to 9 months. Let's say
Yep.
Saturn 2 is probably a year away at least. And so,
Yeah.
but once we get everything going, we could be we can be in the ballpark, I guess, is the idea. And then we can
Exactly.
compete on other things like decentralization. We got the vibes, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, but I thought it was good. It made me feel good to see that, hey, we can still be competitive here in the marketplace, which is really important. On top
Yeah.
of it, as we talked about last week, I think, was CSM was going to have some limit, self-imposed caps, right? So if you mentioned 40 validators, you may not be able to do that over at CSM,
10.
right? It's going to be capped
Yep.
at 10,
Yeah.
right? So there's other things we can. There'll still be a market. We just got to make sure we stay competitive, constantly pushing to improve, and I think we're doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really cool.
Okay, so let's move on to some RPIP 62 talk. 62 is kind of 2 parts, Whack, right? We got ETH only validators, and then we also have this. Are we going to eliminate the cliff? We call it the cliff. That's your 10% cliff, where if you have less than 10% RPL bonded, then you don't get any rewards. And the idea is, should we remove that or should we not? There's a sentiment poll up now on the forum, and this is one of the steps we need before we take it to an official vote.
Yeah.
And the sentiment poll has 46 voters at the moment, and right now it's 59-41 to remove the cliff. 59% yes. Pardon me, I misspoke. 59% of the people responding said support moving to an official vote. I think this proposal is great. 41% says I support moving to a vote, and I think this is good enough. Right now we have 0% against. So it looks like so far out of 46, that's a pretty strong consensus that, yeah, let's take this to a vote. And the sentiment poll will stay up for what, 2
weeks?
Usually 2 weeks. It's been up for about 4-5 days. It went up on the 12th. All right, so we got probably about, what was today, the 18th, 19th? So we got just over a week left. They'll be up. And then at that point, we could take it to an official snapshot vote, right?
Yep. So that's right. Yeah. So the vote here is going to be a ranked choice vote. So there's going to be a few different options kind of written into the text of the vote, and that will be yes, I want ETH only validators, and I also want the cliff to remain. Yes, I want ETH only validators, but I want the cliff to be removed, or I abstain, or I'm against the whole thing. I'm against ETH only validators, and I'm against the cliff being removed. So there'll be a few different options, and people can then rank their choices. I'm quite curious to see how this vote actually plays out, because for a while I thought it was very much the case that it was going to go through. However, some of the big delegates have been kind of sharing their thoughts on how they're going to vote. And Patches, who's the second biggest delegate on the protocol, he says that he's probably going to abstain from this vote. And then a couple of other one of the big delegates said that he's going to vote against this RPIP 62. So there might be, it might not be as clear cut as I had once thought it was going to be. I'm still firmly of the belief that, we will get ETH only validators and we will have the removal of the cliff. However, I'm not sure what the full specifics of that vote will look like and how close it will or won't be. I think it'll be fine. I think, sentiment in the community will be okay. It's been talked about for a few months now, so it's not, brand new and without any discussion. We've been going at it for quite a while, so it won't be a surprise to anyone. But I think it'll be good. A really good thing as well is that, of course, NodeSet they were able to tweak their code to make sure everything was ready for this ETH-only world, that they envisaged that this would pass as well. So that's great. And hopefully they'll be up and running at the same time. Looks good.
Langers here has a post on the forum, RPIP 63, Houston Hotfix. Let's talk real quick about what we've been talking about kind of in general, this Houston Hotfix. So he outlines what is the fix, and just the key required bug fixes are fixing legacy mini pool finalization, on-chain voting to prevent abuse of proposals to exit RPL stake. Also, another on-chain voting bug was to prevent attacks that allow a proposer's bond to be stolen, and also to reduce the guardrail on on-chain voting quorum. So a few things there. Did you want? I think. The reason I brought this up is because, here it is. So the GMC had a talk with our Rocket Pool team back on the 12th, and in there, Schifrin puts a summary together. He says that regarding the hotfix, Sigma Prime will audit the hotfix. It said next week, which would be this week.
This week, yeah.
Right. So there should be, Prime is one of the auditors that Rocket Pool has used consistently. The aim is to implement it by the end of October, ahead of DevCon, which is mid-November. And Saturn progress is positive, with work continuing on Megapool code and the deposit mechanism. So this is a really good update. You said on the GMC, so this is like a bi-weekly talk that the team plans to have with the GMC, given regular updates. Let's put together we've got a lot of moving parts, Wack. I wanted to talk to you quickly about, we've got the hotfix, we've got RPIP 62, which includes ETH-only mini pools, possibly a cliff removal. We've got NodeSet, we'll talk about that in a minute, but in terms of the timeline here, what are we looking at in terms of RPIP 62, in terms of voting, and also the hotfix, and how does it all come together for our viewers?
Yeah, so there's another third component as well, which is the tree generation event that we talked about last week.
That.
So there's a whole lot of stuff that needs to happen in order for us to get ETH-only validators. So the first thing we talked about is RPIP 62 vote. So let's start there. So the sentiment poll means that it's almost definitely going to go to vote, and it's going to go to vote in a week from now. So the Monday after this coming Monday, so 11 days time or something like that, the vote will go live, because unless something drastic happens, the vote will go live that week, and that will run for 2 weeks. So that will take us to the second week of October. Now, with the hotfix, that is being audited right now, and the purpose of the hotfix, like you said, was there was bugs introduced in Houston. They need to be fixed. The RPIP 62 is kind of piggybacking off that hotfix to change some of the parameters to the protocol that need to be there for ETH-only validators. So one of those is changing the scrub penalty to make it ETH instead of RPL, because people can start validators without RPL, so they still need that scrub penalty to be there. There needs to be a change to the protocol to set the RPL stake amount to 0 as the minimum instead of 10% as the minimum that's right now. So those changes needed to happen at the contract level, and with those changes, then we needed to kind of piggyback onto the hotfix. We would have actually needed independent smart contract changes, but with the hotfix already happening, it was like, hey, we can just piggyback on this and make it happen, which was really auspicious timing. Like, it was really lucky that it worked out that way. And then The third thing with tree generation, I think patches, like we said last week, patches already been working on that, looking at that, and he thinks the implementation of it will be like quite straightforward. But I think normally tree generations have to go through governance period as well. So that whole process can take 4 weeks or a few weeks, basically. So there are a few moving parts right now of, getting ETH only validators and Rocket Pool. However, the good thing is that, the vote will be passed by the middle of October. The hotfix will be done. So we'll have a couple of weeks of testing it, with the on Haleshki with the ETH only validators. And then by the end of October, maybe the first week of November, it will potentially be live on mainnet as a way of starting validators with Rocket Pool. So that timing is really good.
Do you
They
think
want to
that
get it done.
just 2 weeks on
Yeah.
testnet is a little optimistic? Don't you think that maybe more like
No,
4 weeks? No,
I don't
think
think
2
so
weeks is enough.
because like I said, like the main thing that you want to look at on testnet is, are the contracts going to break, right? That's the main thing. Like that's the main concern is like, are the contracts okay? And getting these changes, like I said, they're very, very trivial changes. They're literally parameter changes. So the amount of work that needs to be done on testing them isn't actually that much. There'll need to be changes to the Smartnode to be made to like give people prompts of starting ETH-only validators. So that kind of stuff will be
Hmm.
need to be checked. And of course, the tree generation will need to be checked. But the tree generation, the good thing about that is it can actually wait. So if you introduce the the upgrade like right
Hmm.
after a new rewards period starts, then you've got 4 weeks in order to get all the tree stuff done, ready for the next tree generation event. So that isn't as urgent, but the other stuff I think should be totally fine.
So I think the next rewards period ends, I think it's September 26th, if I recall, which would mean 28 days after that would be
Like October 23rd or
24th.
something.
Yeah, say the 24th of October. And so you would assume then the tree, probably the next tree gen where we would have all those changes would be the November period, which would be
Yep,
November
21st or whatever.
21st.
Sure.
Probably be
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But like,
we might get the changes before the 21st of November,
yes.
and then they'll set and then they'll wait for that next period for it to say that we got rid of the cliff, for example.
Yeah.
If you're like a 5% right now, you wouldn't get RPL rewards until that November period. Does that sound
That's
about
right.
right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. So
Pretty
we'll
cool.
be following all these moving parts, Whack, over the next few weeks.
Yes, we will.
But it's exciting. We finally got movement. All these months we've been talking about this stuff has all been in theory, and we've been discussing it, and now there's audits being done. There's real hard work. We're kind of past that last turn on the racetrack. We're getting towards the finish line. It's exciting.
Exactly.
Something else that's coming towards the finish line, of course, is NodeSet. And Wanderer here posted in the NodeSet Discord that as part of our preparation for testnet, Constellation Repository is now public on the GitHub. And note that the bug bounty program will not start until after the audits are finished. 2 of the 3 are done. This is exciting. They're really moving forward. Whack, they had another piece of news as well. Just a little side thing, Constellation can only accept mainnet RPL because it has to be mainnet RPL to stake. However, Gravita has plans to get XRPL and XRE to L2s, however. So that's kind of cool for those users who want to be able to, use L2s instead of the mainnet. But anyways, it's kind of exciting, Whack, because NodeSet, all of a sudden, boom, they've got 2 out of 3 audits are finished. We got Gravita testnets coming in less than a couple of weeks, maybe a week now, I think, because last week was
No,
2 weeks.
well,
Right?
last week they had their call on Friday, and Constellation testnet was 60 to 70% chance that it would go live this week, and then 90% chance that it would go live next week. So we
That's
might actually
awesome.
see it today or tomorrow, especially with the code being made public yesterday. And then, we might actually, if not before then, we'll see it on Monday probably. So it's
Yeah.
exciting. Yep.
Yeah, and you did an extended talk with Nick from NodeSet on your Launchpad that posted yesterday. listened to the whole thing. I got done with it this morning. Lots of good. This is really recommended viewing if you're interested in Rocket Pool. Exciting NodeSet launch coming up soon. What are your takes from the interview?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the chat with Nick. I think, he started off by telling his crypto story. So if you just want to get to the NodeSet stuff, you can skip like halfway through it. But then with the NodeSet stuff, he talked about how NodeSet came about, like what they've been working on. Like he talked a lot about their changes they had with Constellation, about not deploying it themselves and Gravita deploying it instead. There was talk about how it's all going to go, like how it's going to look, what's left to do before it does go live, and it's just we're getting into that home stretch now of it being done, which is really, really exciting. So this was actually just part one of 3 interviews that I'm doing with NodeSet into launch. I'm going to be interviewing Wanda next, and that is going to be about the technical aspects of NodeSet. So we're going to be talking about Hyperdrive, which is their Smartnode stack. We're going to be talking about how node operators can get kicked off or not kicked off, like what kind of parameters are going to happen there. We'll be talking about the Oracle system that they'll be using, about how they might or might not participate in Rocket Pool governance, all of those kind of things, like, the technical details. And then the third one is going to be with Rhett, who is the founder of Gravita, and Rhett will be sharing information about liquidity for XRETH, for XRPL, secondary market stuff. Also, he's going to be talking about incentives that you can get for depositing early, and they've got some really cool ideas as well. So expect those episodes to come up soon. But yeah, this is the home stretch now for NodeSet. They've got their testnet that's going to run for 2 weeks, maybe, unless, in the final audit, there's something that comes up that says that they have to redo some of their contracts, in which case they would spin down that testnet and start a new testnet, which might, take a few extra days. But the work that's being done now is not going to be wasted, right? Like, it'll still be really good work. And then they're still looking for a launch in October. So this is really exciting. It could be launching in like 4 to 6 weeks time, very much in line with when we will see ETH-only validators coming through on mainnet as well, and hopefully both of those will arrive before Lido CSM. So there's some really exciting stuff going on.
Right. Yeah. I remember a couple of little tidbits that I remember from the interview was, right now they've got about 250 node operators that they've signed up, with plans to go up to 1,000. Nick was talking about horizontally expanding, how important that is to decentralize the validator set. And so if I'm on that next list of being interviewed. I know you were in the first 250 whack. I'm on there somewhere. So decide once it gets launched, they want to expand out a little bit. Hopefully, I'll be able to join. He has talked about. I guess we're pretty confident we're going to be able to reduce the deposit pool significantly with the NodeSet launch as well, which is great. And then there's talk of working with the IMC about how do we incentivize our ETH, because that's what we'll need in terms of to feed NodeSet. We need people depositing ETH for our ETH. So, anyways, next steps coming up. They've had their heads down for a while. It was interesting to hear Nick's background, like where he's saying, listen, we don't have time to be in Discord all the time because we're so busy trying to get this thing launched. They got to take a nice vacation, I think, after it launches. That the whole team's probably deserves it. So, anyways, I definitely recommend this because they got me excited. In fact, that's my win for the week is NodeSet. I think they've
still my win for the week.
Well, we can do it together because they've just come. Last week I was like, "Whoa, wow, what is this Gravita thing?" This was like unexpected, and I know Nick's like, "Well, we've been kind of keeping things close to the close to the vest in terms of dates and things." So they've got that Gravita. We've got 2 of the 3 audits done. We got testnet maybe coming up this week, probably next week for sure. That's moving along. NodeSet is going to help scale Rocket Pool. The XRETH token will be the highest yielding LST on the market. I mean, that without a doubt. So that's awesome. Can't wait to see it. Do you get anything else to add to the win?
There's stuff to be excited about, and that I think is really important. And NodeSet, talking to Nick and just NodeSet getting closer to launch is something to be excited about, and it's something that energizing people. So a lot of people have talked to me and gave me feedback for the episode and said, we really enjoyed that episode. We really enjoyed Nick sharing his ideas and clarifying things about NodeSet and how we all could be involved, right? If you are a node operator with Rocket Pool, you can add NodeSet validators to your stack and you'll earn rewards. The idea, hopefully is that, we'll all have 10, 20 validators that we're running for NodeSet just on Constellation, and then other services as well, potentially, in the future, that could end up being a pretty nice income that they're sharing with their node operators. And one of the things that I realized is that, node operators is one of the scarcest commodities in crypto. And it's really hard to get people to become node operators. And
it is, yeah.
And the fact that Rocket Pool has nearly 2,000 of them or somewhere around there, and now NodeSet, growing fast as well. With a lot of Rocket Pool node operators, they should be clarified, but they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think with the node services, the kind of things that I can imagine them doing in the future is L2 sequencing. They can do things like running AVSs on EigenLayer. They can make XRETH into an LRT, which we've seen little teasers about that happening as well. And there's lots of things that they're looking at that could work really nicely, and I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's so much to come, I think, from Rocket Pool and NodeSet together. So viewers, sorry for Wax change of camera there in the middle of the episode. Appreciate you working with us, and we thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll have some testnet news for NodeSet. We'll see how the markets are doing, and we'll have an update on RPIP 62. So until then, take care. Wack, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Pat. See you next time, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.